This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter, Welcome to the Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, September the 29th, in 1991, 30 years ago, the Ryder Cup came to play. Of course, I explained earlier on when I talked about the 1985 Ryder Cup, that video being on September 15th, about a couple weeks ago. I said what the Ryder Cup was, but this one was one of the most dramatic ones. I know a lot of people will say the 99 one was just as dramatic, but anyway, it was just amazing. So the Ryder Cup was held at Kiowa Island, a very respectable golf course. In fact, the U.S. actually won the competition by just 1 point. They didn't have the Ryder Cup. Europe had it after a tie. Bernard Langer missed his famous 6-foot putt that would have clinched a 14 tie, and meant in a case of a tie, it goes to the team that had the Ryder Cup beforehand, which would have been Europe. So Europe would have ended up winning the Ryder Cup again. The U.S. had not won the Ryder Cup in their last 3 attempts. They lost to Europe in 85, 87, and then they were tied in 89. It was called War on the Shore because of fierce competition, gamesmanship, and general over-exuberance of the U.S. team and their fans. Kiowa would host the 2021 PGA Championship. And was that the one that Mickelson won? Yep, that was when Phil Mickelson won his second PGA title and was the oldest major winner at 50 years, 11 months. Wow, that's right. So anyway, the Ryder Cup format in 91 was this. 4 foursome AK alternate shot matches in morning session, which means that one golfer would tee off and then his partner would play that shot and then it would go each person. And four of the 4 ball matches are better ball matches. They get to pick which ball they want to play it with in an afternoon session. And then it would be foursome and 4 ball and then 12 singles matches. All matches were played to a maximum of 18 holes. Team USA had a non-playing captain, Dave Stockton. And based on points rankings, these were the 10 guys who, for the U.S. that were in. Fred Couples, Payne Stewart, the late Payne Stewart, if I must say so, Lenny Watkins, Hal Irwin, Paul Azinger, Corey Pavin, who was in his first Ryder Cup ever, Marco Miro, Mark Kukovecchia, Wayne Levi, who was a rookie, and Steve Pate, who was a rookie. So they were in automatically. The captain got to make 2 picks, and he picked Chip Beck who was going to his second Ryder Cup, and the veteran Ray Floyd, who was 49, but he still was in the PGA Tour, going to play in his 7th Ryder Cup. The selection process for the European team was 9 players were chosen from the money list, the 91 European test, and the remaining 3 players chosen afterwards by the team captain. So anyway, Bernard Gallagher was the non-playing captain, and he picked 9 guys based on European rankings. Here's the funny thing. 5 of the 9 people who automatically qualified through the European Tour money list were Ryder Cup virgins, if you will. The 4 that were not Ryder Cup virgins were Seve Ballesteros, Ian Woosnam, Sam Torrance, and Bernard Langer. The 5 rookies were Colin Montgomery, surprised he was a Ryder Cup rookie in 91, Steve Richardson of England, Paul Broadhurst of England, David Feherty, yes, that David Feherty, from Northern Ireland, and England's David Guilford. The captain's picks were Jose Maria Alzabo, Nick Faldo, and Mark James. The U.S. would do well in the morning foursomes on Friday, winning 3-1, taking a 3-1 lead. The only misstep was the Azinger-Beck pairing losing to Ballesteros and Alzabo. Europe would come back a little bit in the afternoon 4 ball to win 2.5 to 1.5, and would only be down by 1 point, 4.5 to 3.5 after day 1. On Saturday, the U.S. were great in the morning. The only hiccup was Couples and Floyd losing to Balastalos Olasabo pairing. U.S. had a 3-point lead. The afternoon four balls saw the Europeans win every matchup except for the Balastalos Olasabo versus Stewart couples match. That was a half. So it's 8-8. So basically 6 singles to if Europe got 6 out of the 12 one-on-ones, then basically that was it. Now there was one match that wasn't played because of injuries, and the USSD Pate actually could not compete. So his match with David Guilford was a tie, but it went down to the wire. One of the most intriguing things, other than Langer missing his putt in the match against Taylor, that would have given Europe a tie and the cup back, because in case of a tie, was the fact that there was also another key match. Colin Montgomery versus Mark Calcofecchia, the third matchup to tee off. Well, they did it like the first matchup would tee off, and then when they got to the second hole, then the next matchup, and so on, so forth. Started on the first hole. They were third out of the gate. Faldo would end up being Ray Floyd if David Faraday would beat Payne Stewart, give a couple points for Europe. But the fact of the matter was that the Montgomery-Calcofecchia match was memorable. If you watch the YouTube highlights of that match, Montgomery versus Calcofecchia, Calcofecchia had a 4-up lead with 4 holes left. All Calcofecchia needed was a half of a hole, or win one hole, and the match was over, and the US would win that point. But Calcofecchia, for some strange reason, had the yips, and Montgomery tied. It was half a point each. Fortunately for Calcofecchia, the U.S. still won the Ryder Cup, so all is forgiven. Well, for the U.S., Asinger beat Olasabo, Pavin beats Richardson, Beck beat Woosnam, Couples beat Torrance, and Watkins beat James. And of course, the pairings of the halves of Langer and Guilford. So, final score 14.5 to 13.5. For the United States, their best player, tied for the best player, was Fred Couples and Lanny Watkins, who both were 3-1-1 in their 5 matches. Unfortunately, Wayne Levi would not have a good tournament. He was 0-2. Steve Pate also had a bad one. He only got half the point because of his injury, thankfully enough. For Europe, this was a major tournament. David Gilbert and Sam Torrance both did terribly, only getting half a point for their group. But it was all about Seve Ballesteros. He played all 5 matches. He played both 4 balls, both foursomes, and a singles match. He was 4-0-1. So Seve was a hero. Olasabo didn't do that badly either. 3-1-1. He lost his singles match. But other than that, he was nearly perfect. Paul Broadhurst was only given 2 matches. Well, of course, the singles match. So Broadhurst ended up being 2-0. Oh, not bad. However, there were some controversies in 1991 I didn't even know about. So anyway, Steve Pate and some members of the team were involved in a caravan crash, and Pate bruised his ribs and needed hospital treatment. They didn't know either to replace him with last minute or carry on as planned. The decision was allow Pate to participate on the eve of the games, so he missed the first 3 sessions of play. He could have been replaced. He only played 1 session, the 4-ball on Saturday afternoon, as he lost to Langer and Montgomery. And Pate couldn't play in the singles because of his injury. And the match against Guilford was honorably halved. This was criticism from the general media and the European team sense of bad sportsmanship on part of the Americans. Considering U.S. captain Dave Stockton actually chose to play Pate in an earlier match, thus risking further injury to the player. Anyway, there was a controversy. It was the Balaseve and Asinger controversy with Ray Floyd also being involved in it. Something to do with compression of the ball or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, there were some problems with that. I'm not going to get much into it because, I mean, after all, it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. So anyway, the 91 Ryder Cup was amazing. And now you know. Anyway, I'm jumped on Nadu.